Hey guys, welcome back inside the stash. So it's been a few short weeks since we did one of these. I know they were spaced way further apart in the end of last year, but that's all due to all of the financial nonsense and shenanigans and chicanery that went on for people who, are fans of this channel and have watched all of these videos over time. You know what it's about, and I'm not going to go into it again here, but, this is a few things, quite a few things, but it is primarily just trying to catch up from last year. This would have been, much more tightly packaged over several months rather than it being one huge influx all at one time. But you know what? That's just the way things have worked, and so what can you do? There's nothing really for me to go ooh with on this side of the camera, so we're going to flip it around and go ahead and show you. All right, so we got a couple of things from Hobby Search as well as a shipment from Hobby Link Japan. So from Hobby Search, first up we'll have this. This is the Portuguese Rally TA64 Celica photo etch upgrade parts. This will go for the T64 Celica kit we just picked up in the last video, the one that has the Marlboro and Belga tobacco liveries. We're going to be doing up as the Marlboro version of that for the Rally Oman. So we needed the we didn't need, but we needed the corresponding decal strip for this. If nothing else, it just has a much more in-scale radio antenna and the air injectors and a few other bits and pieces like all these grills. I love me some photo etch grills. A lot of this stuff, is sort of neither here nor there in the way in terms of like, making the kit look better. Like photo etch windshield wipers never really look good. And, some of the other stuff, but grills. I love me some grills over just random mesh that's all uniform, where you can clearly see these grills are different patterns for different sizes, front grills, and then the grill that's in the trunk area, and you've got your photo brake faces and things like that, the mud flaps and all the tie downs and Dutz fasteners and all the seatbelt material and things like that. How much of it you end up using it is totally up to you, but for like $15, having the antenna that's like in scale is almost worth it to me. Plus you get the seatbelt materials if you want to make the seatbelts and stuff like that. There are no decals with this because the Portugal Rally one didn't have tobacco livery, so there was no decals included. And they didn't make a specific one for the Haspengouw Rally Oman one. It just uses this set of photo etch because it's mostly the Tarmac Rallies kit. All the body pieces are, so it uses the Tarmac body pieces, or photo etch pieces. So there is that. And then something that popped up that I really had no intention of purchasing, because it just didn't exist until all of a sudden it did, was this kit. Oop, I need to tip our camera up because this box is goofy sized. The Similar 4GT. This is the Belgian racing version. Now, if you know your Similar kits, Similar, first of all, is bankrupt. They don't exist anymore. They went out of business about 5 years ago. They made 3 versions of this kit. All of them are basically useless as an actual model kit, but I collect Mark VDS race car stuff, and that is what this is. It's got the little lion head logo back here. I have the other one. Trying to see if it's not underneath something that I can't pick out, but it is, of course, underneath something. But it's a silver car. They also did a Matec version, which was the company that made the conversion to turn these into GT1 class race cars. That one is a blue car with white stripes on the nose, hood, and trunk. I have absolutely no idea how Hobby Search got a hold of 2 of these out of the blue in the middle of 2019, or the beginning of 2019 anyway. I can only assume that these were hanging out underneath somebody's steps behind the water cooler, underneath the photocopier toner or something. I know that 1999 occasionally buys out like small private collections. They'll get goofy things to come in that have been out of production for years, like this. These kits are what they are in terms of trying to build one, and eventually I probably, will get around to attempting to build it. Along with its sister car, the silver one, just because Mark VDS, all the things. But this is one that I always wanted to get once I realized that it was another Mark VDS car. But the price of them, when the company went out of business, of course, shot through the roof, because even though they're, They're famously the issue with this kit is famously because this car builds up like a race car does, where all the body components are sort of separate. The front fender pieces are individual, the front bumper piece is individual, the hood's individual, and then there's sort of a center piece here with opening doors and all of that. These front fenders were famously short shot, where instead of wrapping around to meet the front bumper, the molds on a lot of them would stop like right here, and you would not have this front piece of the edge of the fender. I haven't inspected this one to see if it does or not. My gray one, my silver one, actually has the entire piece, but it's one of those things where they try to make this way too complicated. At least they use chronograph graphics, so there is that. The decal should still be good after all these years, and here's sort of the bolt thing on the side. They've got real spring suspension, which is sort of neither here nor there. It does come with a sheet of photo etch, and it comes with the graphics, which include a sheet of carbon fiber. So, I mean, they had the potential of being something really, really nice. They just unfortunately didn't turn out to be that way. So, like I said, this is just more of a collection piece than anything. They had two of them. They sold them for what they originally sold for back in 2011 when they came out. So I had to fall on this from a great height, regardless as to the actual quality of the model kit, because the chances of you finding one of these for $50-ish is non-existent. They all are, $100, $200 now, because there's only so many of them, and they're all gone now, or at least nobody's going to sell you any. Similar made, of course, the Pascalero Jed, and they made a Jed, whatever, but they made a Ford rally car as well. It just was kind of a little obscure. They were very expensive in the day, $50+, which I realize is what, a Belkits kit goes for these days, but this is sort of a little bit more of an obscure thing than a Ford Fiesta RS that won the 2017 World Rally Championship, like the new kit that's coming out of Belkits. Plus, it's 2019, not 2011. $50 for a model kit in 2011 was still kind of ridiculous. Model kits in general were still in the $17, $18 range, so this was 5 times or 4 times more expensive than anything else. And then it didn't go together very well, and then you couldn't find them because they had a really crappy, distribution network, being a small, independent French model manufacturer. So anyway, I said it's just one of those things that it fell into my lap, and I couldn't keep from doing it. There was one left, and for a while I thought I was going to be able to go on here and be all like, hey, there's going to be one left of these, but somebody bought it. So congratulations to whoever the other person is that managed to pick up one of these for next to nothing, or at least metaphorically next to nothing. The other thing we got from Hobby Search is the Modelers Toyota Camry. Been wanting one of these since they were announced, basically. Try to get this in here so it's the only thing on the screen. Come on, focus. That was too close. But anyway, the Modelers resin stuff. You're going to get a nice package of things here. You got your typical modeler's instructions, where basically gives you some vague outlines of what happens to the model, with your full color sheet on the inside, which tells you all your decal positioning and things like that, and then a parts layout on the back here. So I'm not going to dig this one out per se because I've already had it out and looked at it, but it's a small sheet of decals, sort of die cut plastic for the side windows. The front and the back are the typical ones where they're shaped correctly, have the window black already around them, and have the double-sided plastic sheath on them to keep them from scratching. And then you have a photo etch sheet here that has the window surrounds for the side windows, the window surround for the windshield, some brake faces, and a couple other pieces here. Some Toyota logos on a metallic water slide decal, some die-cut Mylar for the windows, some screws, some metal axles. It's pretty cool decal sheet in general. You have like the wheel wraps, the door inserts, like the power windows and stuff like that, your gauge cluster, your center console, and then there's the seat inserts too, because this is like the top of the line sporty version of the Camry, which you can giggle all you want to about that, but that's what it is. And then here's your pieces here. So tires are molded in black resin, so that's nice to see that. For a while they were not. And then pretty much all the rest of the stuff is standardized. Equipment for a modeler's kit, all packaged very nice. The body looks really good. No sink mark. No. Oops. Just flip it upside down. There we go. No bubbles. No short shot. Nothing nothing of interest to here other than it just looks good. So that's pretty much what you come to expect. I mean, yeah, they are kind of pricey, being a you know, $70 to $80 resin kit, but I will say, for people who complain about that price, what did, since Model House is out of business now, or they retired, they're not out of business, but what did a model kit, what did a Model House resin piece cost you? If you got one that was an entire kit and not just a body, it was $90, $100. So it's more expensive than this. You can hate the subject matter, and that's fine. Nobody says you have to like it, but I mean, be realistic. Resin isn't cheap, no matter what side of the Atlantic it comes from, or the Pacific for that matter. So there is that. That is the Hobby Search thing, or the Hobby Search shipment. There is a special going on for Valentine's Day at Hobby Link Japan, where when you shipped out a shipment, you got Japanese Valentine's Day candy and snacks. So I never forced my family to eat the Christmas Kit Kats yet, but I'm assuming some of the stuff is chocolate. I don't know. You probably, get the old Google phone translator out and take a peek at what some of the stuff is before you try to feed it to people. But there's, let's see, looks like 5 pieces in here. There's 2 here, whatever this thing in the middle is. The thing on the end, and then there's a bag of something in the back here. So, hey. We'll add this to the pile of uneaten Japanese food in the corner. And then I said we have the actual Hobby Link Japan shipment here, which if it didn't have a couple of Aoshima things in it and a B-Max kit, would be, hey, I went out and bought the entire stock of Hasegawa. So the first thing on this shipment is this gargantuanly, stupidly large Good Smile Racing AMG 2017 Spa decal set. I mean, seriously, it's bigger than the similar box. It's bigger than a Tamiya box. I'm not exactly sure what this is bigger than any box I own, I think. I'm trying to look around to see like box sizes. This would not fit. This might fit into like the London bus box. It's that size. So you have 2 different choices when you're doing these liveries. You have this side over here, which has all of the red pieces in it, so you do not have to paint the car any other color other than the base color, and then all of the red decals are on here. And then you have this set over here, which is a mirror of this, but it is just like the outlines and things like that. So if you want to two-tone the car yourself and paint all the red in, you can do that, and then just use these sort of cover decals. So, I mean, if nothing else, it gives you like a little bit of an option, I guess. Even like the bottom part of the spoiler has the same thing, with this one is red and this one is clear. So if you want to paint the spoiler red, you could. Hey, it's certainly a interesting option. These are water slide printed. I don't know how, this explains why these decals were like $35, but I don't understand why they couldn't have chopped this in half and made it half to get as big. But hey, I guess you can't argue. It's just the way the things were done. On the back here is a whole bunch of instructions on how to use it in Japan. You have this little trading card for the Good Smile Racing Super GT car. I would be very interested to see if they really intend to do the 10 Hours of Suzuka livery or not. I'm not exactly sure that there must be a... Oh, yeah, there's 2 sheets, and because there's no real layout. It must be on the other side of this, because there's like a piece of, I guess, cardboard keeping this decal paper upright. But at any rate, that is in. So it's certainly a very, very comprehensive set of decals. I'll give you that. I probably will use the red one, because I don't feel like paint. This is a obviously weird 2-tone to try to paint. With the way that, if you look here, there's no red in here, but there's red down the middle here and red around the intakes. So that is that. What? Yes. Five, four, three, two, one. And go. All right, so back to the actual kits in here. First up, we have the Nissan 370Z Tamiya Heritage Edition. We'll talk about this kit when it came out. Basically, there's a new front clip to it, and then new wheels, and that's pretty much it. Other than the decal sheets for the Heritage Edition, the original kit itself, original car itself, was available in yellow, white, and black, and then they've added red and blue for the 2019 colors. The decals in here do include the silver stripes or the gray stripes, depending on how we'll look at it, to make the black car, so that's cool. Our sole Aoshima kit in the box here is this, the Nissan Silvia S15 1999 car. I already had one of these, as it turns out, which isn't to say I bought something a duplicate of, but when I realized that I had pretty much this factory stockish, very factory stockish version of the S15 Silvia, I bought the Hobby Design trans kit for it that makes this into a, I want to say it's a Rocket Bunny, I think. It's something along those lines. I don't have the thing right in front of me. It was like, it's Gretty, it's Rocket Bunny, it's something with over fenders. And so, technically speaking, I'm just sort of replacing, or I could use this as the base kit, one or the other. The only reason I really bought this was because this allows you to not only build a Type R, but also a Type S. And I don't have any of my Silvias from either company that allows me to build a Type S. The Type R, or I think it's technically Spec S is what the terminology would be, but this does include the Autech version decals as well, so I didn't realize that. I need to take a peek here. I guess the Autech stuff, yeah, it's just a little piece of, just a little logo on the decal sheets. That's why I didn't notice it, because it's so tiny. It's this little piece right here. It's an Autech version. So it's a very small decal sheet. You do get window masks in there, as usual. It does come with the more aggressive Spec R front end with the, I'm going to say, got too much glare there. The more aggressive Spec R front end, as well as just the regular Spec R. But I wanted to build this as a Spec S, which is basically just a Spec R with a different trim level to it. Because my Spec R is going to be the one with the more aggressive front air dam and all the other things that I got. I have the one that has the photo etch in it. You guys may remember that from back in the day. Our one BMAX kit for this box is this, the Audi Sport Quattro SE S1E2. I ordered the detail upset for this, and it didn't show up. And then I got an email at the end of last week telling me that it is discontinued, which is, of course, horse pucky. It is not, but for some reason, Hobbylink Japan can't get any more of them. So I try not to, try to F-bomb them on my video, but F them and the horse they rode in on. There are several other places that have it, so I'm not necessarily worried about getting one per se. But actually, I have one thing. I know where I can get one, and I'm waiting for a kit to come in at that place so I can sort of combine an order. I don't want to pay European shipping just to get a set of photo etch. So I'm waiting for a kit to come in, and then once it does, I'll probably grab both. But you guys know what this is by now. You've seen enough of it. You've got the San Remo and the Monte Carlo rally decals in here. And, we want this detail upset because, of course, the detail upset for this includes all of the partially missing HB and crown things for the tobacco livery on this. So it is what it is in that sense, but I wish that they had done something, I wish HLJ would just fulfill my order, but it is HLJ, so. So sort of the one downside about those guys is sometimes they'll just be like, yeah, we can't get this anymore. And you're like, no, you can. I know you can. And they're, no, we can't. And then you got to go someplace else. And I just hate buying like one thing and shipping one thing. End up paying so much shipping for one little item. And it's like, why couldn't it just come from the place I'm shipping something? Because like photo etch in a box of kits this big doesn't cost anything. It doesn't add any weight to the shipping. So it's shipped for free basically. All right, so starting in our Hasegawa Rama here, we have the newest version of the Suzuki Jimny. This just came out not too terribly long ago this month for the JA 11-2 1991 edition. What does it mean? Why won't it focus? Questions that everyone wants to know. But yeah, as you guys know from watching the videos, there's no new parts to this, just new decals. So I'm assuming whatever the parts were to build this specifically are already in here from previous versions. So I'd have to sit down and compare this to the other Jimneys to find out. But like I said, this should be the last of the Hasegawa Jimneys unless they do the JB version, which would require a slightly different suspension, at least as far as the front and rear suspension parts going from a spring axle to a coilover. And then the body is a little bit different, not too terribly much. They could probably do it with a couple of inserts and some new parts. We'll see. Maybe the fact that the guys over at Fujimi are going to be doing the 3rd generation and 4th generation versions of the Jimny. They'll do the second half of the 2nd generation. We'll see. Stranger things have happened. And we have this, which is the next version. This came out a little while ago, but like I said, this is a catch-up box. A lot of things here that have come out over the summer that I just didn't have any way to purchase at the time. So this is the 2000 GSR Early Edition, 1973. You guys may realize that there is the late version, the 1976 version of this GSR is going to be coming out in March. Or is it? No, it's April. So, yeah. Managed to get this in just in time for the next one to come out. And then the last civilian vehicle, we have the JT50 Imsher Turbo, which has a new hood and a new steering wheel for the 1.5 liter turbocharged version of this car compared to the 1.6 liter version that came out originally as the first version of this Gemini tooling. I don't know where we're going with this next. Preferably for me, race car, but we'll see. I mean, you know, my guy. This was a JTCC car in like the early 1990s, and I'd really love to see them do this as a JTCC car just to plug a hole. But we'll see how they feel about that exactly. Wait, I lied. There's one more civilian car in here, and that is the Nismo 40th anniversary R31. This car was available in 4 different colors: red, blue, white, and red. I said red twice, didn't I? Red, blue, white, and black. All of them have effectively the same livery, except the red car obviously, or the white car obviously has, I think it's red stripes, which are not included in this. So you are limited to blue, black, or red. The white one has red, yeah. All right. Make sure you're limited to 3 of the 4 because there's not decals in here to do the white car. So this has, comparatively speaking to the original R31 that came out, the GTSR, this has a new front bumper, a new grille area. I believe the headlights are actually new. It has these BBS mesh wheels that are new. There's a new rear tail panel to this as well it was specific to this vehicle. They made 800 and some of these, or no, 1,001 of them for the 40th anniversary. The colors are pretty much standard Nissan colors from the 1980s, so you know it's not a special order the way that the paint for the GTSR cars were. It's just the dark blue, the super white, super red, and whatever the heck the black was called that they used at the time. So if you happen to have some of that on hand, or you know, I know that it has been sold in the past at various places. It's not a terrible hardship to try to find color match paint if you don't want to just paint this dark blue and say, yeah, it's close enough, because, I mean, really, who's going to know? Now, like I said, on to the racing vehicles here. First up, we have the Kawashu Corolla 11, the A101 car. So this is a very, very, very basic car as far as the livery scheme goes. It's blue with, I don't know why, red rims, but be that as it may, red rims, and very basic car. I think it may have, I'd have to go through my notes, because I made notes for all of the stuff for the JTCC videos, and I've been waiting to get these in to actually do the rest of the JTCC videos, because I wanted to have the kits on hand. But I think these guys did something. Got a podium somewhere along the way for their class. They weren't a very competitive team, being a very small team. They were at the time, I believe, the one team that had a female driver as part of the driving team. But it's just a cool piece. Just have this reissued because they were stupidly expensive to get an original one, and almost all of these, because all of the livery in this kit is white or yellow, right? Yellow with age. So having fresh decals is worth the price alone. And then you have the most recent JTCC addition to the Hasegawa family, and that is this, the 1994 Intertech. I can't remember what kind of car, who sponsored my car, but I remember what kind of car I drive. Civic Ferio sponsored car. this ran one race, well, two races technically, one weekend, the Intertech weekend at Fuji Speedway. Did not do particularly well, but we've talked about it before. The Intertech draws in international drivers, so obviously that's the case here. You get the general gist of the picture here. Little Fario action. Very interesting. You know, this is the 88 team. Down the road, we see where we've come here. Actually, this would have been before this, I believe. I want to say that this is a season or two after that. But at any rate, that is back in stock here at the Stash. And then the last kit for this video is going to be this. This is the second racing version of the R31. This is the 1987, or 1988, I think it's 87 season Rico sponsored car. We've talked about this before. The way these decals are done is there is a white spear that is on the decal sheet, and then these slashes themselves are on the decal sheet. And there's also a matching roof area that has these sort of white things that go on the very back of the roof. That is on the decal sheet. Beyond that, you're in charge of the two-tone. Now, the spoiler's separate, so painting that white's not an issue. But you need white doors, and then this little, you know, parallelogram of white on each side of the door, as well as painting the roof and the A-pillars white. I can see why they didn't do this all in white decals, because if you painted the car red, then you'd have pink. So I understand, but at the same time, it's not particularly easy. I think you probably get a little artistic license here with it, because looking at these two things, I don't believe that the white is equilateral on these two sides of the car to begin with on the build. The only new pieces for this were the wheels. All the rest of the kit is the same. But this was the championship car for 1987, and it is another Aguri Suzuki vehicle. So always cool to see something of his done. And yeah, I mean, it is molded in white, so at least it's got that going for it. It's not molded in the Calsonic blue that the original one was. So that's always a positive. And then here you see what I was talking about with the, maybe you do, maybe you don't, maybe I'm holding it too low. Here are the spears for the front fender. I know it's kind of hard to see because it's white and they're sort of washing out. But then you have the red and white spears for the sides, and then the red and white spear, or the red and white stripes for the roof. And then, yeah, pretty much everything else is a bunch of tiny little decals. You know, you didn't have a whole heck of a lot of vehicles here, and looks like you have the option to build either the 1987 car or the 1988 car in here, because there are some Kei Hoshino A. Olofsson driver decals down here, and then here's your A. Olofsson Aguri Suzuki decals up here. So I have to do a little research into what exactly you get out of this, because obviously the one on the box art is the championship car, the one that Aguri Suzuki drove with Olofsson. But having this other driver combination down here makes me wonder if there isn't an option to do this car as the other year. So do a little research on that. That's cool. Hey, look, I learned something while I was on camera with you. All right, guys, that wraps up this video. Hope you'd enjoyed it. See some things there you might want to pick up yourselves, and we'll talk to you guys on the other side.